Hi guys, welcome to another evening with Srinivas from BYJU'S. Friends, by now a lot of IIMs as well as other MBA colleges have already come out with the calls, have given out their calls, and the interview dates are slowly being revealed by the colleges. In fact, as of now, not many colleges have given out their interview calls, at least the dates, but yes, some of them already started the interviews also, like IIMT Ghaziabad. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have a comprehensive session on personal interviews. We're going to talk about PIs only, what happens in a PI and how do you navigate this labyrinth called personal interviews, right? So we're going to have a session there. I'm going to cover a lot of issues. In fact, let's take a look at what are all the topics that we're going to cover, right? We're going to start by the purpose, understanding why an interview is actually conducted. You guys have already written CAT. You guys are smart. You've cracked it, right? Or various other entrance exams like XAT or NMAT or whatever else it is. So why do they conduct this interview? So we'll have a short understanding of that because that will help you plan for it. The next thing is, what is the basic checklist of items that you need to take care of on the day of interview? Because these are common mistakes that students make. I want you guys not to make these mistakes. So these are the checkpoints. It's like, hygiene check. This is a must. Then we're going to talk about what are the areas. This is going to be a big chunk that I'm going to talk about. What are the various areas that you guys need to prepare? What is usually expected in the interview? What do the interviewers check you about? Or what questions do they ask? Not exactly the questions, at least from what areas will they ask you the questions. Then we're going to talk about how do you address the panelists? How do you talk to the panelists? What are the key points to be noted when you are, interacting with the panelists, right? So there's some common do's and don'ts. I mean, some mistakes that students do. I want to, let you know that these are not allowed and certain things are allowed. Then we will talk about how do you handle things that you don't know. This is something which is very scary to a lot of you. A question comes to you and you don't know the answer, you get all, riled up, or rather, you get all tense and pressurized, and unnecessarily you make a mess of the entire situation. So we're going to learn how to handle these unknown situations. And of course, there are certain traps that the panelists will put for you. You might fall into some of the traps. You might, get caught off guard, as they say. Let us see how to pick ourselves up. What are we supposed to do in such a case? Then this is one very important part which I want to talk about is your afternoon and late evening PI. There's a special importance to afternoon and evening PIs, and I'll explain why is it different from a morning PI. And then the ending part, the last 1 minute or so, how do you handle, what are the various things that can happen in the last 1 minute and how should you respond to them, right? Well, that's what we have in store. So before we go ahead and start with the various topics that I mentioned, please, if you have not already subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel, hit on the like button as well as the notification button. Guys, we have a lot of session coming your way. Those of you who are also listening to this, planning for the next year or rather this year's CAT, that is CAT 22, we have a lot of sessions coming your way too. So please subscribe and click on the notification button. Right guys, so let's start with the PI. So what is the purpose of it? The purpose is to basically know you. Remember, in a CAT exam, all that you did was write an answer, or rather give an option, write some answer to few questions that is asked. So they don't know who is you in that. It's basically an answer, that's all. So we know that, okay, you guys are good in math, you guys are probably good in English, logic, well, that's all I know. But I don't know as a personality who you are, right? So that's what we need to, or rather, as a panelist, they need to know the kind of candidate that they are looking at. Second thing is, so what are the things that CAT exam can't check? I need to check your personality. Now, personality is a big word. It has a lot of things. For example, are you aggressive? Now, people who are very aggressive, they kind of, create a non-healthy environment. Yes, one or two aggressive people are needed. Over-aggressive people also needed because others will learn how to handle them. That's a part of learning. But too many people like that, too many people like that will actually create an unhealthy environment. Similarly, can you handle extreme pressure? Now, when I'm saying extreme pressure, I'm not saying that they're going to pressurize you in the interview. But can you do, let's say, multitask? Can you do many things at a time? What kind of pressure have you taken in your life till now? And all this they want to check without actually putting you into pressure. Once in a while they conduct a pressure interview, but very, very rarely. Don't worry too much about it. So they want to look at, okay, can you handle work or workload? Okay, because remember, these colleges are world class. They're the best in the country. It's not going to be a cakewalk, graduating from these colleges. So they need to make sure that this guy can put up with the pressure that is required, right? Then they're also going to talk about, okay, as a person, yes, I know whether you are, what kind of a demeanor you have, aggressive or not. I can talk about your workload. The other thing is, are you doing the right thing? I mean, why are you doing this step? What is your goal, or what is your plan in your life? Right? What is the main reason why you are sitting in front of me? That I know that you want a seat in my college, but is this in line with what you want to do in your life? Or are you randomly coming and saying, okay, let me try this, let me try that, wherever it comes, whichever way. I mean, it's like, you're like a kite flying in the sky without any rope, just wherever the wind blows. Are you a person like that? If that is the case, while all of this are good for you, I might not take you because I'm wasting my seat by giving you a seat in my college, because at the end of the day, my 2 years of education might not be useful to you, or you might not even utilize this. If such is the case, then I might as well give it to somebody who actually wants it and wants to make use of it. So a lot of such things. I mean, this is not the only thing. The list goes on and on. So these are the things that they look at. And of course, the most important part is, are you a managerial, are you a suitable MBA character? So do you have what it takes to become a manager? Right? These are the things that they want to check, which cannot be checked through an entrance exam. So that's the reason why you have an interview, right? So what is a basic checklist when you're talking about interviews? So we will start with, mostly things are online right now. So I will talk about few things that so these are hygiene factors. You have to make sure that these things are small things which are taken care of before you start your online interview. Certain very small cases are offline interviews. So I'll be talking about what things you're supposed to take care of when the interview is done offline also. So let's start with the online interview. The first thing is, you have to be dressed in formals, at least from the waist up. The reason is very simple, guys. It's a formal process. Remember, while you're sitting at your home, the process is a formal process, right? So they would like to see a person properly dressed, preferably with a tie. You don't need to have a blazer, but if you have it, it's good. But otherwise, full, neat, plain shirt, not too many flowers on it or things like that. Very plain color. White is the best, most safest color. Otherwise, some light color is fine with a matching tie. And if possible, you need to be cleanly shaved. That is, if you're a guy, usually I prefer, unless for whatever reason, if there is a compelling reason for you not to shave, that's okay. But otherwise, normally I would recommend you to have a clean shave. Okay. For women, you have to make sure that your dress is, again, you don't need to wear business formals per se, but a presentable dress, right? Sari is also fine if you're into it. Otherwise, any dress which is presentable is fine for you, because there's no particular dress code prescribed in any of these interviews. But yes, you need to be looking like a student and that you are serious about it. Okay. Well groomed is what I already spoke about. You need to make sure that just look at yourself in a mirror, make sure that you look good. Think of it that you're going on a date. You would like to present your best self, but yeah, please don't wear the kind of clothes you wear on a date. Make it presentable, that's all. Check internet connectivity. Now, this is something which I've noticed. In fact, I have a lot of mentees that I'm already mentoring right now. I'm taking a lot of mock interviews, and I've noticed that certain cases, and it's not your fault also, but if you know that your internet connection is not stable, if you already have this information, please make sure that at least for that one day, you go to your friend's place or somebody else's place who has a proper connectivity. Guys, remember, at the end of the day, because of your internet connection or because of your lack of knowledge, whatever is the reason, if your answers are not heard by them, who is at loss? It's you. So at least make sure that your internet connection is smooth, and if you know it is kind of dicey, if you know that the internet connection can be disabled once in a while, it's not been consistent for whatever reason, make sure that you find somebody who can help you out and give their or be in their place for at least this half an hour, 45 minutes that the interview happens. In fact, interview doesn't even happen for more than 30 minutes. It's 20-25 minutes. Typically, that's the length. Okay, so check your internet connectivity. This is another thing, usually because it is from home, there are a lot of disturbance that can happen. And again, you don't have control over that. For example, yesterday I was taking an interview and there was a drilling going on in my apartment. Now, I can't do anything about it, that's fine. But if you know something is happening like that, or if there are people in your house, there are too many people in your house, make sure that you lock yourself up as much as possible. Obviously, everybody, at least in your house, obviously you can't talk to people who are outside, but people within your house, at least they know how important it is. You ask them to please keep silent for the next 30 minutes or 40 minutes when your interview is done. Lock yourself up. It's very common that you are having an interview and somebody might rush into the room. Please make sure that you lock it up, and people are aware that you are taking this, right? So you should not be having this. At least these are the basic checkpoints. And you might be finding that these are very, very obvious. Why am I talking about it? Trust me, guys, there are enough students who forget these points because of the nervousness of the interview. So make a checklist of these for sure on the day of the interview. In fact, at least internet connectivity should be done at least 1 or 2 days before. Anyway, the next thing is this is an important thing. Have all the documents at hand and the soft copies, because there will be a document check which will happen before the interview. I don't think online they might ask you for documents as the part of the interview. So you don't have to worry about in the interview, but before interview there will be a process. The other thing which I want to talk about is when you're dealing with this documents, it's not just document, guys. In interview, if you are somebody who, let's say, writes a poetry, or if you are into poetry, or if you are into, let's say, calligraphy, or if you are into some kind of a painting, or you are a photographer, whatever your hobbies, it is possible that they might ask you to show certain things. If you have, for example, especially if you are into photography or things like that which can be easily captured online, they can very easily ask you, okay, do you have anything? Can you show something for us? In fact, there were cases that I've come across where people were asked to recite poetry, and it helps if you have 1 or 2 things readily available and you can read from it. It's not that you have to recite from your memory, but you can read from it and you can talk about it. That's actually something which they might appreciate too. Okay, but have these things at heart. Think through it. Especially in these kind of hobbies, you want them to know about these hobbies, and and we'll talk about what needs to be done in the interview, but when you get an opportunity, don't miss it. Right? In fact, if they are talking about your hobbies, and let's say you're talking about painting, you can say, sir, I have a couple of paintings. Would you like to see? They might not ask, but you can offer. And that will, kind of waste a little bit of the time. The more time you are wasting, or rather, think of it this way. They have 30 minutes of time to spend with you. Just take it as an example. The more minutes they spend talking about what you want, the less time they will have asking you questions that you don't want. So you would want them to talk about those things as much as possible that you're comfortable in. So you ask them, show them the painting, they might appreciate it. You'll show them this painting, that painting, you can talk about it, and you might end up eating away into this 30 minutes, which is good for you. So there's less discomfort for you in the remaining time. Anyway, this is something which you need to have. It's a very bad thing not to have a pen and paper beside you. Whether it's an online or offline, even in offline you need to have this. Online for sure. Don't search for a pen when they say, okay, take down a problem. Because it is very common for them to ask you to solve certain things, not necessarily maths. It could be a puzzle, it could be anything. So please don't say, sir, let me get a pen. That's bad. That's pathetic actually. So sit with a paper and pen right beside you. You should not even go out of the screen to get something. It should be readily available to you. Okay, and this is one common mistake again. You speak with the mic too close to your mouth. That is bad actually. The way when you speak with the mic too close to your mouth, then there's some kind of a disturbance that comes in. Your voice does not come out clearly. It's irritating. So please check how the voice is. At least have about 15 centimeters of distance. Don't keep it too close to your mouth, especially those of you who are using, if you're using a headphone with a mic in front, that is fine. It has the distance. But those of you who are using earphones, which has this cable, and you have to hold it up like this. Now you tend to hold up almost close to your mouth, almost into your mouth. So please don't do that, right? And preferably a headphone with a mic is what I would recommend. Okay, headset. The last thing is check your background light. This is something which I'm talking from experience. I have taken a lot of mock interviews, a couple of interviews where the student was sitting in a position where the sunlight was coming from the back. His face was barely visible because of the light. The light was it was in his position was in such a way that I had to ask him to change the position. He could not change because of the various issues. It's a laptop. It's not a laptop. It is a desktop. Then he had to change the entire table. These are the things that you have to at least make sure are not happening. Okay. And yes, most importantly, log in at least a quarter of an hour before, 15 to 20 minutes before, because you never know what could happen in the last 15-20 minutes. You could be nervous, you log in and sit there, your nervousness will slowly keep going down. Don't wait till the last moment. Okay, so these are the basic checkpoints. And yes, when you're starting, when they appear on screen, have a smile, wish them whatever part of the day it is, morning, afternoon, evening, whatever else it is, start with a pleasant smile, right? When it is offline, again, most of the things are similar, but there are a few things which are extra when you're supposed to do offline. Of course, dress code remains the same, but this time you have to make sure that your pants are also proper. And online, it's only the dress above the torso that actually matters. I don't think they will be asking you to stand up and they would like to look at you. But if it is offline, there's no choice but for you to wear proper formals, including the pant. Well groomed goes without saying. It's the same whether it's online or offline. Yes, here this matters. Have hard copies organized chronologically. Now, the reason is when you're talking about offline interviews, while the document check happens before the interview, in the interview, they might ask you to show certain documents. You should not waste their time searching for a document. If I ask you, okay, show me your degree certificate, or if they say that, if you say that you've got some particular first prize or something like that, and they say, okay, can I see that? You should not keep searching, okay, where is it? You should know exactly what is the order in which you kept the things, and you should give it out in seconds, right? This happened. I've seen this happening to students and the panelists getting irritated, right? So please keep these things in mind. The important thing here is when you're entering a room. So this problem does not come to you online. But if it is offline, when you're entering the room, please don't just barge in. It's not good manners. It's ill mannered to barge into a room. So open the door, politely ask, sir, may I come in? May I enter? Right? And then get into the room once they give you the permission. Similarly, when you're before you sit, when you go there, pleasantly smile and wish them. Again, when I say based on gender, what I mean is, if let's say there is a professor, lady professor, and a gentleman sitting there, you can wish saying that, good morning, sir, good morning, ma'am, separately. To be ma'am, sir, ma'am. In fact, there were questions that was asked. It's a very interesting way to start the conversation. So a person walks in and says, good morning, sir, good morning, ma'am. And then he was asked to sit. And the first question is, why did you wish, the madam asks, why did you wish him first? Why not me? I thought it was always ladies first. It's not that she is angry. It's a fun way of starting to see how you respond. So all these things can happen. So keep track of these small points. It could be fun in the interview. Don't get worried about such questions. You can have a smile and say that, sir, ma'am, nothing like that. I just happened to see him first and then you, so I just went that way. But ma'am, yes, I understand ladies first. There's nothing wrong about it. But yeah, preferably if you see women, I would recommend that you wish them first. Usually that's the polite way. Then the next thing that you need to keep in line is when you walk into the room, you ask the permission. Don't just walk in, wish, and then pull a chair and sit. Even before you sit, make it a point to ask for permission, right? There are instances where the student just pulled the chair and sat, and the professor was like, I didn't ask you to sit. You're assuming that we're going to have a conversation right now. And you don't know how to respond. So the better way is please ask them, sir, can I have a seat? Usually they'll say yes. There have been instances where they said no also, but let's not get into it. Yes, usually when they say yes, you take a seat politely. Now when you're taking a seat, keep this in mind. Don't pull the chair in such a way that it makes a lot of noise. Gently lift it, keep it, sit down. Okay? Now this is the important thing. Do not put anything on the table. You usually carry a file if you're offline. Don't put it on the table. The table is not yours. It is their property. It is their space, more importantly. So keep the file either on the side or on your lap. Do not put your hands on the table. Just have your hands in this way and sit, or keep your hands on your lap and sit down. Okay. If at all they are asking you to solve anything and you need to use a table, be polite, sir, I would just use the table with your permission, and then take the pen and then start writing with the paper and pen on the table, right? So again, these are the basic checkpoints that you need to keep in mind. Of course, you have to carry your white sheets, pen and pencil, goes without saying. Don't assume that they will give you. They may or may not give you, but it's always better to have one pen in your pocket. Plan to reach. This is something which is very, very important. For offline interviews, you don't know what might happen when you're traveling. It could be that you're taxi might break down, or it could be that if you are in a car, you might be pulled over for whatever reason by a traffic policeman. I mean, you don't know, right? You don't know what is in store for you. So start early, reach there well before time. Make sure that you're not sweaty when you're getting in. So to calm down and compose yourself, please reach early. Okay. So these are the things. Now we will look at what questions will they ask. What are the areas you need to prepare? Now that we know what are the basic checkpoints, so we have taken care of, okay, how should I go to the interview is done. Now let's take a look at what happens in the interview, the areas to prepare. The first area is your introduction itself. So this is known, almost 99% of the cases, everybody knows that this is asked. They also know that you know. They know that you know that they know, kind of a thing. So why do they still do it? Now the reason is quite simple, guys. While I know who you are because your biodata is in front of me, I've asked whatever questions I need. I'm a panelist. If I start asking you things like, what is your favorite subject? Why do you want to do an MBA as soon as you sit in the chair? Or I start grilling you on, Indian politics, you'd be very uncomfortable. So usually when we ask, as a panelist, if I ask you an introduction, I'm trying to put you at ease. I want you to be the best self unless I want to pressurize you. Usually pressure interviews are less than 10%. In fact, probably less than 5% also. Okay, so if I want you to be at ease and give your best shot, and then I will judge you, if that is the case, I don't want to unnecessarily pressurize you. So I will start with a question which you also know I'm going to ask. That is one reason. The other reason is your seriousness. If you know that I'm going to ask you this question and you still did not prepare, then you are not serious. So there itself I will probably say that, okay, you are not a good candidate. Because if you're serious, you would have put in your effort to make sure that the introduction is good. Right? So there are two checkpoints. One is to not pressurize you. Second is to see whether you've actually spent time preparing for the interview or not. Because if you don't, it's like saying that I'm giving you the question paper beforehand and you didn't even bother to solve the question paper and you just come into the exam like that. Then you are not serious about it, right? The thing is, you have been given a free rein effectively for that time. So the introduction should be anywhere between 60 to 90 seconds. 90 is a stretch. 60 is the minimum, I would say. Minimum 60 seconds up to 90 seconds. Probably 70, 80 is a sweet spot. And this, they are keeping it, or they are giving it to you to speak what you want to speak. Okay? Utilize it. Many students, talk 2 sentences, 3 sentences and they stop. Please do not miss this chance. It's a great chance to impress them about who you are without getting into the topics that you are not comfortable. Okay? Now, why is it minimum 60 seconds? Why should you not finish it in 2-3 seconds? Apart from what I just mentioned, I told you, you need to kind of, tell them who you are, impress upon your abilities and things like that. But more importantly, you have lived for 20 plus years. You guys are all 20 plus. If you don't have 60 seconds worth of speaking in 20 years of your life, then what have you done? Nothing great. Then why would I need a person like you? So they want to look at, can you make this 60 seconds, at least in this entire life of yours, do you have 60 seconds worth of content? And preferably the content should not be about your school name or your school marks. Please don't get into this. They already have this. When I say school, it could be college. It could be your graduation stream, all that is known. So don't spend too much of time. In fact, I would say don't spend time on this at all. Your entire objective should be to let them know who you are as a person. And as a person, how many marks you got? Well, it will tell me that you are studious. You can finish that off in one sentence saying that, sir, from childhood I have been academically good. That's it, over. You don't have to say what is your score in 10th, what is your score in 12th, graduation score and things like that. Okay? These are the things. You should be, now this is very important. You should be electrifying. When I say electrifying, I'm not saying you're going to shout there, but the whole idea is when you are introducing yourself, because remember, this is an answer that you prepared. Please make sure that when you're giving this answer, they would remember this answer to the end of the day. Right? So it should be like, okay, I have candidate 1, candidate 2, candidate 3, but I should remember that, okay, while I might not remember your name, I should remember at the end of, let's say 20 interviews in a day, I should remember, okay, this guy, the 4th candidate was really good. His introduction was different. So how will that be possible? The difference when you're talking about, this difference can come because of your speech, the way in which you speak. Usually speak slow, not very fast. Most importantly, when I'm talking about speech, your tone. It should not be monotonous. Please remember, guys, when I'm speaking right now, I'm varying my pitch, my tone and pitch. I'm not making statements which are very, very constant in pitch and tone. I keep changing it. If you notice, there are certain phrases that I stress upon, there are certain phrases that I don't. So you have to make sure, because that's what makes you a good orator. Any good speaker, you will notice that they speak. Okay, Vaibhav Sharma, that's funny, but I think we have to cut down on the funny part, Vaibhav. There are people who are serious. Anyway, let's continue. So, yeah, the tone and pitch, basically, when I say, you have to make sure that they vary based on what you're talking about. So, if you're talking about your hobbies in your introduction, there should be some kind of an interest generated. You can't talk about your hobbies the same way you talk about something that you dislike, right? Many students say the same way. If you're talking about, let's say, achievements of yours, it's something you need to be proud of, not arrogant, but proud. You have achieved something that happiness should be visible when you speak, right? So or if you like something, your hobbies, let's say some of them are really good foodies. You love food. So you should, the statement should be something like, sir, I really am into cooking. I love cooking food. That words that you use, the stress that you give to the words, basically should tell them the kind of student that you are. And how serious are you about that, right? So that's what I meant by electrifying. Different variations of introduction. Now this is something that you need to hear very carefully what they are asking. One way is the plain old introduce yourself. It is very well known standard question where they expect to know who you are, right? So you ideally talk about your personality, talk about again, always positives, usually never get into the negatives. Don't get into negatives, talk about your positives. So the idea is, yes, there are 2-3 ways of doing it. One way is talk about, sir, I would like to talk about myself. In fact, I would like to talk about the 3 qualities that define me. Now these 3 qualities, I'm just giving it to you as an example. You can talk about 3 of your, achievements, which is linked to, these 3 achievements should be linked to each one of your quality. Sir, I am a person who is really persistent and I don't take, I don't mind losing, but I like to win at the end of the day. I learn from my losses. One of the things that I'm really good at, or one of the things that actually helped me become a very good gamer, so you're introducing the fact that you are into gaming, is that, sir, when I started the first game that I ever played, I was really bad at it. All my friends were better at it, but it took me about 6 months to learn the game. And today, sir, I'm one of the best players in my college. In fact, I've won so many tournaments. So you're basically saying that you're not just saying that you're a gamer, you're wasting your time playing games, but you're talking about a quality of yours which is not letting go. Not letting go, and you're talking about not being intimidated by failures. Okay, you lose, that's okay, but you learn from your losses. Okay, that's you fall, but you pick yourself up. So similarly, plan. What are these 3 points that I want to talk about? Don't talk about too many points. It should not be that you don't have time to give quality content. Stick to 3-4 at best. Bring out the best 4 abilities of yours and talk about it. You can talk about your hobbies. You can use your hobbies to bring out these points. You can bring out these points by some achievements that you have. You can bring out these points also by some difficult situation you're describing and how did you come out of it. Okay, again, don't make too long. Please take care that you don't cross your 90 seconds mark, because beyond 90 seconds it becomes boring. Usually it's like a very lengthy movie that should have been cut short to probably 2 hours. You might feel, right, some movies really good, but yeah, had they cut out the last 20 minutes would have been great. So that's the limit, 90. Don't go beyond that. Okay. Then the next thing is boring. Now this is why am I saying it's boring. Look at the statement. Take us through your CV or the form. Usually the form does not ask too many things. They ask basic things like, okay, where is your schooling? So listen to what they're asking. If they're saying, take me through your form, it's very clear that they want you to talk about what is there in the form. So now you all know, Are there lots of people that are saying video games as a hobby this time? Prince, not many people can get away by saying video games as a hobby. I'll explain why. Okay, now video games as a hobby, when you're saying there's nothing wrong, but what is it that you're trying to prove? If you are just saying that I follow or I play games, that is not going to cut too much of an ice. But are you in a position to discuss about the gaming industry, right? The esports industry, the mobile gaming industry. Do you have any knowledge on that? Can you take the diversion? Can you divert the topic that side and have a conversation? Then you come across, or you will come across as somebody who is knowledgeable. But just saying, see guys, watching movies or cooking food or whatever, anything is a good hobby, provided you are into it and you have a lot of knowledge about it. So when you're talking about movies, a lot of people say, I watch TV, I watch a lot of drama, sitcoms or serials, and I'm a big movie buff. Great, you're a good movie buff or a big movie buff. But what have I got to do with it? So what's in it for me? So your objective is to tell me that, okay, it's not just movies. Movies you like, but beyond that, have you understood the industry per se? So if I talk about, let's say, TV series, can you talk about how Netflix has made a change? What is the revolutionary thing that Netflix has done? Why does it come out with some of the best content? Also in India, why is Netflix not the top? What is the problem with Netflix in India per se? Globally, it is having a challenge today. It did really well for the last 10 years, 10-15 years. But what is the challenge that it is facing? So you are now slowly moving away from the core part of it, which is movie or a serial, but you're talking about the industry. So that's probably where you will make a difference. You can say games, but not many people will be able to go beyond playing of a game. So that's the reason why, Prince, to answer your question, yes, there are some people who are saying video games, but unless you are able to discuss the gaming industry, it's not a great answer. And that's true not just for games, it's for any hobby of yours. Okay, now this is boring. As I said, you have to repeat what is there in the CV. So usually it is boring, but just because they ask you a boring question, you can't say that I will give you a boring answer. Yes, you can say, sir, these are the points which are there in my CV, but sir, there are 2-3 things which I have not got the chance to mention in the CV. Can I talk about them, about me? Ask them, take a chance from them, ask for it. Usually they will be surprised to say, okay, fine, tell me about it. Then you talk about the things which you want to say, but they have, you have prepared for, but they have not given you the chance till now, right? So don't wait for them. Be kind of, I'll not say aggressive, but yeah, try to seize the chance if you see that they are not, or they are asking you something which is not really interesting. Okay? Now the different way in which they can ask you, and there's a wacky way in which they can ask you. Now different way could be something like, okay, usually it happens when they are bored. They don't want to make it even more boring. So let's say it's an afternoon or evening interview. They might say that, okay, well, I have gone through a lot of forms. You're very similar. At least the form is very similar. So why don't you, Mr. Prince, tell me something different about you? Okay, describe yourself in 3 words. It could be anything. So things which are different, or I can ask you, okay, leave out everything in the form. I've gone through your form. Tell me 3 things that I don't know from your form. So any of these kind of things, okay, can come under different or wacky kind of questions. Do not be alarmed by it. Just think of what is the best positive thing about me that I can put forward. That's it. Okay. The next thing is subject knowledge is quite easy. Nothing much to elaborate here. If you have less than 2 years, it's a thumb rule for me. If you have less than 2 years, 4 core papers of your graduation. I'll take an example. I have come across students who are engineers, and if I ask you what subject you like, they end up saying, I liked operation management, which I had because as an elective. This is really irritating to the panels. If you are an engineer, you please stick to your core engineering. Students might think that by saying that they are interested in operational management, I am showing my interest towards management. Guys, this is a question. You need to understand why they're asking you this nice question. They're asking you, okay, tell me, my friend, what is your favorite area? It's like saying, okay, I'm going to grill you now. You choose your subject. I'm not randomly grilling you, but if you say operational management, then do you really want to get into that? And the guy sitting there, or the women sitting there, or the professor sitting there could be from that particular background. Are you going to talk about all of the things that they know about? You probably would not. So without any, rules, or without making, without losing time, start your preparation for your core 4 papers. 4 papers for sure. and at least one of them should be a paper which you performed horribly. Okay, it has happened in the past where they grilled a student from the subject that you are weak at. The reason is, so the students usually say that, okay, this is applicable to a lot of students who are having poor ACADS. So they ask, okay, why are your ACADS so poor? So they end up saying that, sir, this and that, and sir, but I tried to make sure that I covered up for my ACADS. I later on realized my mistake, something like that, some answer like that you might come up with. Then if you say that, okay, you realize your mistake, then the first thing I'm going to look at is, okay, did you study the subject which you performed really badly at? Do you understand? Did you go back and revisit it? I will check that. Right? So there could be any number of reasons why they will ask you. Usually I've seen people picking up either the best of the subjects that you are best at or weak at, and usually the badly performed subjects have been picked up. Okay? And if you are a person with more than 2.5 years of work experience, then I will still say that you prepare 2 of your core papers, because guys, remember, 2 years, 3 years of work experience, you can't say what you forgot, you forgot what you learned 3 years back, because you've learned something for 4 years and you can't retain the knowledge for 3 years and you're saying you've forgotten, which means 2 years of your graduation of MBA, you're going to forget in the next 1 year after that. So that's the logic, right? So just because you worked for 2 years, you can't say that I don't remember, or 3 years also for that matter. You can't say I don't remember. Yes, I understand that you might forget certain things, but you can't forget everything. Something at least you should retain, right? So that's the reason why I said 2 of your core papers if you are in that 2.5, 3 years of experience range. Okay, because they can still ask you about your core subjects. And without saying, irrespective of what experience you are, 10th and 12th is a must. They can still ask you what is conduction and convection and radiation. They can still talk to you about friction if you are, I'm talking from engineering background. If you are from, economics honors or things like that, if you are from non-engineering background or statistics background, I can ask you the basic questions there, right? You cannot say that I don't remember these. These are concepts which you should never forget. Okay, so that's something that they can check irrespective of your work experience. The important thing is, don't focus on deriving formulae. Nobody's going to ask you to derive a formula, but they're going to ask you about the concepts. For example, nobody is going to ask you a big formula in economics for that matter, but can you define what is gross domestic product? Can you talk about the difference between GDP and GNP? Conceptual difference. Similarly, if I'm talking about, let's say, engines, I want to talk about, okay, what is a 4-stroke engine and a 2-stroke engine. I'm not going to talk about, formulae which will talk about combustion and the energy release. Conceptually, what is it? I don't want the mathematical formulae for it. Don't worry about it. But it's the concepts that are really important. Okay. The next thing is WorkX. WorkX is quite simple. There are WorkX. They can ask you about 3 areas. The 3 areas are quite straightforward. The industry that you are in, right? The company that you're working and the company related questions, and actually your job profile related questions. So if you are an IT professional working in IT industry, obviously the questions can be about how is the industry in India, how did the industry get impacted over the last 2 years because of the pandemic, how big is it in India, what is the contribution to the GDP, what are the big IT companies, what are the revenues, especially your company, what is your company revenue, who is the head. Any reason why your company is in the news for the last 3-4 months or 5 months? Any controversies about your company? Any big issue? Any big news events that have come or been released by your company? Anything to do with this? And then, of course, particularly your job. Questions which are very pointed out to your job, your particular clients. If you have an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, and you're not supposed to talk about it, be polite and say, sir, unfortunately, I'm not able to talk. Some of you might be working in government companies, especially, in places like DRDO or something like that, or probably in a shipyard where in fact, I had one of my mentees. When I was actually taking a mock interview, he was polite enough to say that, sir, I'm working in so and so place, but I can't divulge the information because it has got to do with refitting of Indian warships. So I can't divulge that information. Well, I understand that, but you have to be very nice, polite, and talk about it. So there are certain things, certain companies where you cannot divulge too much of information. That's okay. But there are other questions which are related to it. You should be prepared about. Okay. That's about your work-ex. It's quite straightforward, nothing much to, but they will ask you, especially if you have 2+ years, a lot of this can happen. This part is very important. Okay, if you have 2+ years, the first 2 areas, they can grill you on that, right? Then the most dreaded question, why MBA? Now, this is a question which most of you falter, right? Now, I will not say what should be a good answer, but I'll tell you what is the logic to it. Remember guys, your MBA could be a dream, but that is not the end of your life. First thing, this is not the end of life, right? It is a small part of your life. The first question you need to ask yourself is, what is my goal? Now, please don't talk about the purpose of our existence. That's philosophical. That's different. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying professionally, what is your goal? Let us say that you guys are 20, 21, 22, whatever that age is, or 24, some of you. If you are thinking of yourself 45 years, that is 20 years down the line, what kind of a life do you see yourself having? Professionally and personally. Can you think sometime, professionally, where do you see yourself? Personally, where do you see yourself? What kind of a balance do you want to have? Start from there. To reach that point, is MBA going to help you? So an MBA is like a ladder or a stepping stone, that is not your destination. So your answer should not talk about, sir, my career goal is to become a manager. The career goal is 20 years goal, my friend. You will become a manager in 2 years. After that, you are going to become goalless, aimless. It cannot be like that, right? So please make sure that you talk about MBA as a means to reach your goal. So your answer should be talking about your goal. And goal is not to become a CEO. Once again, refrain from using designations. Please don't talk about designation. It doesn't really matter. In fact, I have a case where a student said, sir, I want to become a CEO of a company in 20 years. So the question immediately was, why a CEO? Why not a managing director? Then the question was, what is the difference between the two? A managing director and a CEO. What is the difference between these two people? And then it went on and on and on. Why not a president, or why not this, why not that? Well, that was a disaster. So the important part is, it doesn't matter what you call the name or what's the name that has been given. What is important is your responsibility. Okay, so focus on what kind of a job do you see yourself doing, not what is the name of the job. Okay, so that's the bottom line here. And build a story on how to set your goal. Okay, so when you say that this is where I want to go to, your story should talk about who inspired you to get, to think about that. What is your source of inspiration? How did you start thinking about it? Some of you might say, sir, I want to become a product manager over the next 15 years or 10 years. I want to be in a large company where I'm handling a product from its genesis to the market, till it's been released into the market. Great. But can you tell me, how did this interest come in? So the first thing is the goal. The second thing you're going to talk about is, how did you come up with this goal? What is the reason for the goal? Is there a story? So build a nice story towards it. Okay. And then typically when you're talking about goals, talk about a short-term and a long-term goal. 5 to 7 years is a short-term goal. Because when you're talking about 5 to 7 years, 2 years are gone in the college itself, right? Then you can have a 15 to 20 year goal, which is basically a long-term goal, right? And don't unnecessarily get into entrepreneurship. This is something which many of you do. If you don't know what to say, you say, sir, probably 20 years later, I'll become an entrepreneur. It's a very, very random answer. It clearly says that you have no clue what you want to do in life. So unless you are very sure of entrepreneurship, if you have a history of that in your family, or for some strong reason you want to do that, you have a very good idea, but for some reason you're not able to put that idea forward into practice right now, whatever it is, unless it's very compelling, do not talk about entrepreneurship randomly. Enough answers are there, enough students who are doing it, they will really get irritated with one more student coming and saying, I want to become an entrepreneur. The other way around, if you're saying entrepreneurship, be very sure to be grilled on that, because they'll take out all the irritation on you, right? Well, that's one point. And the next thing is, this is something which is very important. If your graduation and your job that you're doing have got no relation, and the job that you're doing and your MBA, you're technically having, if you are in a technology background, you want to do an MBA, It's not a smooth transition. Why do you want to go from tech to MBA? Similarly, if you are into tech, if you are not into tech, let's say you are into coding, but you are a core civil engineer. You're done civil engineering, got into coding, and now you want to get into MBA. Now, what is the logic here? It looks very haphazard. So then your objective is to make them understand what prompted you to go from civil engineering to coding. Talk about the reason why you did it. Because the question will come, and look at the phrase, the way in which they put the phrase. They'll say, Mr. Srinivas, you're a civil engineer. But you're working in a software industry, you're coding day in and day out. You've wasted 4 years of your civil engineering knowledge. You learned how to construct things, but you're not putting that to use. And you haven't even worked for proper 1 year or 2 years in your coding job. Now you're jumping into an MBA. Why are you trying to do so many things randomly all over the place? Look at how they're structuring it. It's very, very negative. Do not be afraid. Politely smile. Sir, I understand it looks that way. Prima facie, that's what it looks like. But sir, I would like to take this opportunity to tell you the reason why I went through this change of A to B, B to C, which is this. Then talk about why did you end up doing coding? Why did you end up taking up a coding job? And remember, whenever you're talking about going from A to B, okay, whenever you're going from A to B, the answer to why are you in B should not be, remember, it should not be that I don't like A. So for example, if I say, why are you thinking of an MBA? The answer should not be, sir, I don't like my job. Because if you don't like your job, get into another job. It still does not answer. If you say you don't like your job, I can understand why you are not in A. Why not A, I can understand. Because you don't like it for whatever reason. It does not answer why you are going for B. So the answer to always why you want to take this route B should be talking about your good things you get by doing B, your liking for B, where did it start from, and does it help in your career goal? These are the 3 ways in which you can handle the question. Why are you taking a particular route? Could be because that route will take me to my destination, so talk about the destination. Could be that, okay, the route that I'm going is, I'm giving you an analogy. The road is not good, the other road is very smooth, so that's the reason why I'm taking it. It's better route, it has a better scenery. I will not talk too much about how bad the current road is for me. I will always talk about why the other road is better. That's the reason why I'm taking that, right? Or I can talk about, is it something, or did somebody inspire me to do that, or anything else? I will talk about B and B only. Do not talk about what you're leaving right now and why you're leaving right now. Okay, that's one thing. If it's not a natural transition, so build a story that influenced you. Okay, I have got a question from Sanjeev Ghosh. I'm MSc in biotech after some teaching experience and field works, now preparing for MBA entrances like CMAT. Please suggest me some suitable MBA field to enhance my skill. And Sanjeev Ghosh, to be very to be very honest, it doesn't matter what job you're doing. An MBA is open for all. Please don't think that a marketing job is better for an MBA, whereas a teaching job is bad for an MBA. Trust me, I was into teaching before I took up my MBA, and it didn't stop me from joining one of the IIMs. Right? So it's not a problem at all. Any job, provided you are able to convince them why you took up the job, and from that job, now why you're planning on MBA, if you're able to convince them that, it's set. So don't worry too much about it. When you're taking up a job, think, do I like doing this job, and are they paying me well? That's enough. Okay. The next question that they're going to talk about are some HR questions. Let's quickly go through them. One obvious question is strengths and weaknesses. Typically, you are expected to have 3 to 4 strengths with examples, plus examples. Okay, examples, when I'm saying examples, real life incidents. You can't randomly say a strength and say, okay, when did you display this strength in your life, and you don't have any scenario to talk about. Ideally, when you're talking about a strength, you should have a real life example where the strength of yours was tested or was portrayed, right? So keep that example in mind. Preferably don't make up examples. Have it from your real life, okay? The next thing is weaknesses. Weaknesses, ideally, should not have as many as strengths. No, and you cannot say I'm perfect. I have no weaknesses. No, you can't say that. So 1 or 2 weaknesses. Now, few things to be kept in mind. Don't pick the weaknesses which stop you from becoming a good manager. For example, if you are a person and you're saying that I'm very shy, I don't like public speaking, I can't speak well, or if you're saying that, yeah, I can't continuously put in hard work for more than 2 hours or 1 hour, I get distracted easily. See, all these things are going to stop you from getting good marks as a student there. So they are negative for you. While they are really true about you, don't be so honest also. Pick the weaknesses which don't affect a student for MBA. Okay, so please don't talk about the weaknesses which hamper a student as a manager. I'm sure we are all riddled with enough weaknesses. If you want to know what your weaknesses are, go talk to your parents, talk to your friends. They will throw you hundreds of weaknesses. You pick the ones which are kind of okay, the kind of which are it doesn't have to be too serious. Okay, but you need to again have examples. So 1 or 2 weaknesses with an example where this has affected you, and there is an extra part here. What are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? You can't say that I have a weakness and I'm not planning to do anything about it. So what is your plan to handle or mitigate this weakness? You need to have a plan. Have you put it to work? Is it giving you results? Otherwise you're basically saying that I know something is bad with me, I'm not fixing it. Then again, not a good manager. Okay. The next thing is ethical dilemmas and scenarios. They might give you a scenario, put you in a scenario, or put you in a position where you have to ethically, or they might give you a question which is an ethical conundrum. In all these things, single point, always ethical answers. No matter how serious the situation is, if there is a route which is ethical versus a route which is unethical, and it looks very, very convincing to take the unethical route, that's how they'll put the scenario to you. In any of those situations, always stick to the ethical route. Okay? I've got a question again. Sanjeev Ghosh says, my primary coursework to focus on pharma and IPR field along with HR field. That's fine, Sanjeev. Doesn't matter whichever course you are in, and as well as the job, if you like doing your job, that's fine. Don't worry too much about which job will be good for an MBA. All jobs are equally good for an MBA, guys. Remember that. Anyway, so going forward, the next thing they can ask you is about your greatest achievements and greatest failures. When you're talking about achievements, that's great, but especially failures, talk about a failure which helped you learn. So don't talk about random failures, talk about a failure which has helped you become a better person. It should have enhanced you as a person. So talk about such kind of things. Please don't talk about random thing. Okay, I went and played and I lost. Okay, fine, you lost. Did you learn anything? That's a follow-up question. If you can't answer the follow-up question, it means that you failed and you did not learn anything from it. So ideally, a failure, if you're talking about, there should be some takeaway point from it. And there can be questions on your role model. It need not be one person. It could be a group of people, 2, 3 people. You might like certain qualities from each person. It's okay, but you need to explain why you like this person or a group of people. Okay, and the next thing is hobbies. Now the first thing you need to understand is why is this asked, guys. If I ask you about your subject, you may or may not like talking about it, right? So the hobbies, you chose your hobbies. I did not force these hobbies on you, right? You only chose your hobbies. So a subject you might like or might not like. You might like or you might not like. But a hobby you will definitely always like. Why will you continue it otherwise if you don't like it? Now a topic that you like, here also you are not giving good enough performance in terms of speaking, knowledge, in terms of being understanding the nuances of it. Then as an individual, you are a bad learner. It's as simple as that. In the topic of your choice, you did not put effort and seriousness in understanding it to go to the depths of it. According to me, you are not a good material for learning things. You will just do superficially and leave it. That's the takeaway point from me, and that is very bad. So if hobbies are asked, you have to be very careful about it. I have come across students who talk about 7 hobbies, 8 hobbies. Why do you want to talk about so many hobbies? Talk about 1 or 2 hobbies that you are seriously into. You should be able to have a conversation with them for probably about 5 minutes or so on the hobby of yours. Do you have the confidence like that? Only those 1 or 2 hobbies you talk about. Okay. And when you're talking about your hobbies, you should show that interest of yours in the way you speak, in the smile that coming onto your face. Your hobbies, you should tell them that you're happy talking about it. Please don't put a morose face saying that, okay, why are they asking me about the hobbies? No. When they're talking about the hobbies, you should change your demeanor. Let us say they're grilling you about acads and suddenly they start about hobbies. They should see the change in your body language. Oh yes, hobbies, I love, sir, I spent a lot of time in the last 3 years doing this and this. So that change in your tone, change in your body language should be telling them that, okay, this guy is serious about it. Let me spend some time on this hobby at least. So you might have really messed up your graduation and related subjects to that. But if I can see that your passion is converted into knowledge and the passion is converting you into knowing about it, the knowledge, then the logic is you can convince me that you are interested in MBA. I will believe you if you can convince me that you are interested in MBA. The logic is your hobbies, you are interested, you did a good job. Your MBA, you are saying you are interested. If I believe you, you might end up doing a good job. That's the way in which I look at it. Okay. Ria is asking a question. Is it compulsory to choose productive hobbies like listening to music or watching documentaries? So is it bad? Ria, there is no hobby that is bad in my opinion. I told you this some time back also. A hobby can be anything provided you have in-depth knowledge about it. Okay, it should not be, for example, if you're saying you listen to music, great. But can you talk about the genre of music that you're talking about, that you are interested in? Can you have a discussion about the top singers in the genre? What were the changes over the last couple of decades or 3 decades in this genre? When did it reach its peak? Who was contributing to it? I need that level of information. Okay, I hope I answered your question, Ria. Saurav, if they ask you for why is there a gap, you can be honest about it. Do not lie, because when you end up lying, they will ask you they'll cross question you and you'll get caught. The moment you're caught in an interview lying, you are dead. The interview is over for you. Please remember that. Okay? So as honestly as possible, please talk about the reason for your gap. Okay? But again, the reason cannot be or should not be some idiotic reason that way. So please have it checked with your mentor. You should justify your gap if they ask you. Okay. And then, yeah, so your hobby, your objective, I already mentioned about. In fact, you can talk about your hobbies. Hobbies can be, it's a good way to bring down your strengths. Okay, hobbies are a good way to bring forward your strengths, because usually you pick up things which you are strong at, which you like, and either hobbies are picked up based on strengths or your strengths will develop because of your hobbies. One of the two happen. Okay. The last thing is GK, nothing much to talk about. You have to know about your state and city. You have to know about obviously India. You have to know about the last, at least, I'm saying bare minimum, last 3 to 4 months, whatever has happened. Especially in February, all of you are going for interviews. Budget is the big thing that has happened. Learn all about it, and that's not the only thing, but that is at least the most recent big event. Okay, I'm just giving you one example. So you can be asked anything, but this is a must. Especially those of you who are in the states which are going up for elections. Please have a knowledge about it. In general, you should know about the country per se. It's a common question. They'll ask you how many states and union territories are there. Students get confused there itself. Then the questions like, okay, can you name all the states? You know, or if I say, where do you stay? You say you're staying in Delhi and your interviews for I am Kozhikode. So I might say, okay, if you are taking a train from Delhi to Kozhikode, what are all the states that you will pass? Any of these, geographically, historically, some major events, you should know about your country, of course, and most importantly, the current happenings. Okay. Now, the question that they ask you, one of the questions which students fumble is, what other calls you have and where will you join? So this is a common question that gets asked to students at the end of the interview. Okay. So how do you handle this? So there are 2 scenarios. The first scenario is you are giving interview to the college which is the best of all of that you have. These are safest. Let us say you have I am Lucknow, you have I am Indore, I am Kozhikode, and then let's say you have MDI. Now clearly Lucknow comes a bit ahead of Indore. Almost every Indore and Kozhikode is same, and probably these 2 get a little bit ahead of MDI. Right? Now you can very politely say, sir, whichever case it is, actually the first statement you should not say that, sir, obviously Lucknow. Because you don't know who the person is sitting in front of you. He is the professor currently in Lucknow, but he might have graduated from Kozhikode or Indore for that matter. So you don't really want to piss them off, right? So the best way to answer that is, sir, IIMs are the dream college of mine. In fact, put it in your own words. Don't paraphrase what I exactly said. The idea is, use your own words, but basic logic is, look, this is my dream come true. I'll be happy to be in any of these institutions, sir. And if they push you a little bit more, you can say that, sir, while I'll be really happy getting into any of them, but if you are asking me to select one, it's a bit difficult, sir, but probably I'll end up going with Lucknow. So what you're telling them is, boss, I know they're all damn good colleges. You're forcing me to pick, so I'm picking Lucknow. And you can do that because you are in the Lucknow interview. The problem comes when you are not in the Lucknow interview. Let us say you are in MDI. You can't say that you're sitting in the MDI interview that easily and say that Lucknow is your best choice. So here you have to very polite again, but you will have to end up saying that. You will say honestly that Lucknow is the bottom line. The bottom line will be Lucknow is your choice. So how do you put that across is what matters. So you can't say that, sir, MDI comes fourth in my list. Lucknow is my top. Indore and Kozhikode are second and third, or third and second. So that's my choice. No. Again, you have to make them. So please make sure their ego is not hurt. Ego should not be hurt for them. At the end of the day, they are professors from, let's say, MDI. You are giving an interview for MDI. They're spending time with you. And then you tell them that, look, you are not in my top consideration. But they will feel bad, right? And they'll really get pissed off. So the answer should not be very straightforward. I would recommend that you say, sir, MDI has got a class of its own, while the IIMs have a brand name. MDI, sir, as a college, it has been able to differentiate itself, which means you should also know why MDI is different. Okay, you should anyway know about the college. That's the next point which is there. But yeah, you talk about how MDI is unique and why you are interested in MDI. So you're very nicely not saying you'll join MDI over Lucknow. You are always talking about why MDI is good, why MDI is good. But if they pointedly ask you, no, tell me where will you join? In the second or third or fourth attempt when they're pushing you, you say, sir, I'll be very glad, sir. In fact, if you are giving a hypothetical situation where all the calls are converted, I mean, it's a dream, sir, for me. Probably I will join Lucknow, sir, but I'll be very happy right now to take up MDI, given a choice. So that's how you mitigate it. Okay? And irrespectively, as I mentioned, you need to know all about the college. You can't say that you don't know about the college. Okay? Well, this is about your other calls. Let's quickly go through the few hygiene factors once again. How do you talk to the panelists? Please talk slow and steadily. Do not think that having energy means, speaking slow only. Having energy means speaking fast. Speaking slow and energetic are not mutually exclusive, which means you can do both. I am speaking slow as well as you can see that I am energetic. I am not rushing through my statements. Okay? So please make sure that you talk slowly, but at the same time they can see that you have energy which talks about their interest. Okay? Saurav Keshwari is asking a nice question. Why should we select you? Remember guys, the answer is about you. Don't compare yourself to others. Talk about the good parts about you, the good things about you. Strength number 1, strength number 2. How can you benefit the college? What can the other students learn from you? Please don't say, sir, I should be selected because I'm the best. Doesn't work. So the way to answer this is, what are the strengths that you have that you can help the group when you join a college? What can they learn from you? It could be your education. You are coming from a different background. It could be your job, your work experience. It could be some talent of yours. It could be some strength of yours. Any of these. You put 1 or 2 reasons and say, sir, these are the reasons I think. The other thing you can look at is, what does a college want in a student? Think of it from that angle. What are the things that the college wants? If you are academically inclined, if you have been a good student throughout, that could be a very good reason. Sir, I have always taken my academics seriously. I have never compromised on them. In fact, my scores are in front of you. Given a choice, sir, I'm sure I'll be a very model student, making sure that making sure that I'm in the top. That's the kind of student that you want anyways. That's one of the reasons. I'm just giving you examples of how to think. Right, Saurav? I hope that answers. Anyway, so vary your tone and pitch. I keep repeating this again and again. Get that sparkle when you're speaking about your passion, as I already mentioned it elaborately. If offline, address all the panelists irrespective of who asked the question. This is very interesting. When you're in offline mode, there will be 2 or 3 people sitting in front of you. One of them might ask you the question. Doesn't matter. You will talk to all 3 of them when you're responding. It's not a one-to-one conversation. Keep this in mind. Okay. Now, if stumped, so if you are suddenly, stuck, if you don't know what to do, don't panic. Ask them a moment to collect your thoughts. The moment you panic, your brain will stop functioning. So you can say, smile and then say, sir, can I have a moment? So you're basically telling them that, look, you caught me. Let me think a little bit and respond. Okay. Confidence is a must. If you notice, if you are uncertain, your voice changes into a particular way. If you are sure about it, your voice changes in a particular way. Your words, your body language should be talking about confidence. If you are unsure, anyway your language will change, but at least in your introduction, in your things that you are sure of, in your hobbies, that confidence should come out. Okay? Don't bluff. This is something you might think, how will they know? What will they know? I can lie and get away. Please don't. They have seen thousands of students like yours and caught hundreds of lies. And if you are caught with a lie, they might not even say that we caught you. They might just reject you and stop the interview within the next 1 or 2 minutes. Politely saying, okay, that's the end of the interview. You'll not even know what happened. So as much as possible, don't bluff. And if you want to guess, please tell them, sir, I don't know the exact answer, but can I take a guess? Then when you're guessing, do this. Okay, that point is, where is that? Okay, that's I think that's there in the next slide. Yeah, so when you're guessing this, use logic. Because when you guess, it cannot be random guess. Let them know how you are thinking to come up with an answer. There are a lot of instances where your final answer is wrong, but your approach is correct. They will be appreciating this approach. You might make a small error at the end, that's okay. But if your broad approach is correct, they will be happy. So don't just do all the thinking in your mind. Once in a while, you can talk about, sir, I'll just thinking it out aloud. I'm guessing, sir, if with your permission, if I can guess. Well, this happened at this point in time, so this cannot be happening before 1500. This war, I remember, sir, happened somewhere in the 1400s. So somewhere this king lived between 1400 to 1500. You might not know the exact answer, but some logic you're using to come up with an answer. Do that. Okay, and of course keep smiling. It is not forbidden. Please smile, but don't smile when they are saying that you have done a bad job in your records. I mean, yes, you can have a small smile so it's like, yes sir, I understand it was an error on my part and I've learned my lesson, sir. In fact, since then I've put in double the effort to make sure that I don't let go of anything else. My ACADS might have been weak, but you can see my accomplishment in the last 2 years of my job, sir. I've put in my 100% into my in my job, and this is what I have achieved in my job. Okay, so you have to have a way to recover from that. And this is one important thing. Some of you might feel that if I prove the panelist wrong, then I'll be great. No, you are not. At the end of the day, please don't argue with them. The more you argue with them, the more irritated they get. And remember, they have your life in their hands. So you don't want to argue with a person who has your life in their hand. At least in this college. Right? So don't make it a habit. If it is getting into an argument, politely say, sir, I remember very distinctly reading about it. But yes, sir, I will check once again. Now that you mentioned, I'll definitely go and check, sir. So you're basically saying that let's move on. I don't want to argue. So you are very subtly saying that. Okay? And maintain. So this is one more thing. So this is something which happens quite a bit. In the panel, they will become so friendly to you, and you will also become very friendly with them. And then suddenly they'll catch you in a topic which you wanted to avoid. So irrespective of how friendly they are to you, how nicely, politely they are talking, or how harshly they are talking, remember, they are neither your friends nor your enemies. If they are not your friends and they are not your enemies, then their way of speech should not affect you. You should remain calm, and your reserve basically should be maintained the same way. Okay, you should not get too friendly with them or be too intimidated by their demeanor. At the end of the day, it's an interview. They don't know you. It could all be an act from them. So when they are too friendly, you be polite. When they are too harsh, still be polite and smile a little. And of course, Needless to say, use simple language. Okay. Okay. So this is a very interesting thing. Before you talk, rather blabber is what I said. Before you randomly talk about anything, make sure that you ask a simple check. If I talk about this and they ask me a question, will I be able to answer? Mostly your inner mind says, no, you can't handle it. So delete that statement. Don't talk about it. Okay, if you are wondering, should I talk about it or not? Make sure that you do this simple check, and if the answer is no, don't get into it. Last few points, handling the unknown. Mostly it's already been covered. You can say you don't know. Be polite. If you don't know something, you can say you don't know something and make it polite. Don't worry. There are enough people who said I don't know and still got in. So you don't have to worry about one or two I don't knows. Okay. Don't feel bad, but the next opportunity you have, you should claim it. You should take it. Okay. Focus on the logical route, and I already explained this. It's the logic that matters, not the final answer. Final answer will be good if you can give, but if there is a logical way of processing it and that is the only thing you could do and you could not arrive at the final destination, that is also fine. Okay, so don't worry about it. If you get caught off guard, don't worry. It happens to most of us. It happened to a lot of people. It happened to me also during my interviews. They know they are trapping you, and if you get caught in the trap, they will not be very harsh provided you are recovering from it. Okay, so it is what matters is how do you react, how do you recover from it. They know they're trapping you and you're fallen into the trap, that's fine. But are you nervous and breaking down at that point, or are you smiling and conceding that okay, fine guys, you won, but I'll recover now. Next question I'll recover and answer it properly. That's what matters. Worst case scenario, have a smile. I'm sorry, sir, but I'm not aware. An apologetic smile, which basically says, let me go, please, without literally saying that. Now this is the last part. Late lunch or late evening PI. This is very important for you to know the difference. Guys, morning everybody is fresh. By evening, the lunch or the fatigue factor comes in. By, let's say your interview is at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. By then the panel would have seen some 10, 12 students, same random answers, same introductions more or less. This is where you have to be extremely smart. If you can go and give a good introduction for the first 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes, your job is half done there. They can see that, okay, we are drowsy, we are sleepy, this guy has come and woken us up. So they will get interested in you, or girl for that matter. They will get interested in the candidate. So please make sure that when you are in this late evening or post-lunch sessions, you are double energetic than a morning interview. Morning interview, they are also fresh, so if you are average or above average, that's fine. But afternoon and evening interviews, you have to be a lot more energetic. Okay? You have to be highly energetic, that's what I meant. And the introduction in such a thing sets the tone. So if your interview time is already known, date is known, prepare for your introduction to be doubly effective. Okay? And finally, how do you end? Should you ask any questions? Sometimes they say, okay, that's it from our side. Mr. Srinivas, do you have any questions for us? Guys, look at it this way. If you ask a question, does not mean that they're going to select you because you asked a great question. But if you ask a dumb question, it will definitely bring your opinion down. Okay, their opinion of you down. So if you really don't have a question, don't force yourself to ask. You can say politely, no sir, thank you for the opportunity. I would like to thank you for the opportunity. That's all. Okay, if you genuinely have a question, please run it by your mentor first. Is it a good question to ask? Your mentor should be in a position to help you out, whether the question is good or bad. Okay. If online, please wait. Don't switch off before they tell you. If the moment they say, okay, we are done, please don't switch off. Wait politely. They'll say, okay, now you can log off. There is a polite smile and say, thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Then log off. Okay. And of course, if it is offline, again, you have to make sure that you thank them politely, get up without making too much of noise, take up your things, walk back. Okay. And of course, don't forget to wish them. Close the door behind you. Please don't keep the door open. These are basic manners. The door was closed when you came in. When you leave, the door should be closed. Okay. Don't overthink. These are certain things people think a lot. In fact, some colleges do it. I think Kozhikode was doing it last year or before year. No, not last year. 2019, before the pandemic. Online, obviously, this cannot happen. But they used to keep a bowl of chocolates and say, take a chocolate and go. Or you can take have some sweets. People wonder, should I take one, should I take two, should I take zero? Sir, what do they think? Just don't think too much about it. You can smile and, sir, I like chocolates, can I have two? Good, take and go. You don't like chocolates, sir? I really don't like chocolates. Thank you, sir. It's okay. You are afraid of saying this or that. Take one politely and say, sir, thank you. Over. Okay. Saurav, I already mentioned that. What question should you ask? If you have genuinely something, you ask. Otherwise, please don't. Okay, so guys, that's what I had in store about interviews. So now I'm going to talk 5 minutes, or not even 5 minutes, 1 minute about the courses that we are doing from BYJU'S, the interview preparation course. So one is the basic program. You will get one interview from an IIM alum like me or my colleague, Mr. Gautam Bava. There are going to be some asynchronous sessions. So we have some 10 sessions of knowledge based on the current events that are happening. Then we have an introduction session where we will take the introduction for every student and tell them what is to be done. We will have 5 interview specific sessions. So PIs will be, the sessions will be talking about, it's not one-on-one, but the session will be about what are the normal things that you are, the common questions that come, how do you handle these questions? Like many of you asked, okay, if this question comes, what should I do? If that question comes, what should I do? So there are 5 sessions, made for such kind of questions. We're going to have WAT sessions also, and as you can see, we have synchronous sessions. Synchronous means live sessions. Insights on PI concepts. We're going to talk about B schools and brain teaser puzzles. This is the basic course. And if you're interested a bit more, if you got some really good colleges, you don't want to miss out on the chance, we have something called as personalized mentoring. What we do here effectively, there's a lot of points over here, but effectively what you do is you get a mentor. You get a mentor like me who is going to handhold you throughout the journey. We're going to have multiple interviews. I'm going to correct you multiple times based on the number of mistakes you make and make sure that you're beaten into a shape that is acceptable. When I say beaten into shape, mentally fit to answer the questions that they're going to put forward for you. Okay, so that's what we have. So these are the two courses. One is the basic course and one is the personalized course. And personalized course, you will be getting a mentor who is going to be available to you to help you out, to go through your forms, to look at the mistakes that you have done in the forms, to look at the mistakes you're doing in the interview again and again, right? Thank you guys. If you guys enjoyed this session, please make sure that you like us, follow us, as well as subscribe to us, our channel. Thank you and see you in the next one.